So had lunch up on top of there on Sunday. Anybody who's just visiting should definitely go up there and have a view. It's tremendous, very beautiful view of everything. So creating metadata is complicated. And it actually really is complicated. What you saw Patricia go through describing relationships.
We have a difficulty trying to reach out to a lot of our members who are challenged in this way, and we've made attempts in the past to try and improve that situation, and we continue to work on that all the time. So in 2015 at this meeting, which was in Boston at the time, Martin Eve, who's a researcher that's done a lot with Crossref, and he did he took a look at how members and publishers and researchers have to work with Crossref in order to generate metadata and register DOIs. And his analysis at the time was justifiably critical, and a lot of what he said was absolutely true. And basically what he pointed out was that in order to work with Crossref, for the most part, you have to know how to do this stuff. Just like Patricia was saying, you've got to know how to generate XML, and you've got to have the mechanisms by which to do it. Well, once you've generated the XML, you then have to engage with the Crossref system to put that XML in, to register the content. And one of the ways that he pointed out how to do that is a very old, very tired interface for uploading a file to the system. Now, there are people who actually use this interface. The vast majority of our members, it's all done via APIs. They program, they write data into the system on a regular basis. That's where the majority of the content comes into Crossref. But there still are a lot of people who have to do manual techniques to get data in. Now, fortunately, some things like the OJS platform does have integrations that allow you to deposit metadata directly into Crossref via the content that's in OJS. And so that's a great solution if you're on that platform. But Crossref provided a solution for many people, which was affectionately called the web deposit form. And so this form is, I'm going to say, 16 years old. And it's been patched and band-aided and added to and buggered up and everything you can imagine just to keep it hanging together. But there are a lot of people who use this thing. And it's really cryptic. It's kind of an engineer. Engineers built it, so that's why it looks like this. And you have to go through and edit in all of these fields. You got to get them right. You got to have an ISSN that's proper. You can't just put in any old thing. It's got to validate. And then you click on the Add Articles button. You go to the next screen. You enter in those values. And when you're all done, you press a button that says Submit. And everything that you have just entered in, it was all good, it's going to go through and it'll get deposited. If there was a problem, it's all lost. And you basically come back to this screen and you start over again. And this screen is useless if you have an existing DOI that you want to change the misspelling on an author name. You can't do it very easily. You got to go through the whole process. So this is what's been around for a long time. And so what we have now that we're currently still working on is something called the Metadata Manager. And, oops, hold on. So the Metadata Manager is a screen that looks like this. The resolution is a little awkward, but so basically what you do is you log in using your Crossref credentials to get at your account. So I'm going to log in as me. Okay, so it's a little bit tough to see, but so when you log in, you have a desktop view of the publications that you want to work on. So I'm logged in as me, and I'm attached to the Crossref test account. Okay, the test account owns several journals, which are actually in Crossref. They have real DOIs, and we use it to play with stuff. And this is one of the more popular ones. It's the Journal of Psychoceramics, which Jeff Builder will tell you is the Journal of Cracked Pots, right? And so what you do is you put into your desktop the publications that you want to work on. If there's another publication that already exists and you want to add it to your desktop, you would just search for it and you would add it. Okay, and so here I am trying to add the journal called Media Matters to my desktop. And the first thing I'm confronted with is the fact that every journal that goes into the Metadata Manager has to have a DOI. This is not a thing that we enforce in normal deposits, but when you're coming through the Metadata Manager, we're going to enforce that because it's a good idea and it helps things work out for us. So I'm going to just finish this off by making up doesn't really matter if I'm spelling things wrong, because I'm not going to actually deposit anything yet. All right, and it has an online ISN, and so if I save it, did I actually hit that? Oh, wow, really? Okay, so this is the kind of thing that's going to happen to you through this interface in several places. You know, it does an interactive validation of the data that you're typing in, and I cannot believe that is an existing DOI, but so be it. So now I've added this journal to my desktop, okay? And I can then go into any one of these publications that, there may be other publications, or I can create a new publication in my desktop. But I'm basically constructing an environment for me to work on stuff that I'm responsible for. Maybe there's other people that work at my company, and they're going to have other journals in their desktop, and they're going to have other articles in their view, and they can work on that. So here I've got just a couple of records that are associated with this publication in my desktop, and I can edit them. And so here I can go through and change any of the values that are associated with the metadata for this article. All right, and you can see that it was populated with the values that exist now. And so I can change them, I can save them to my local desktop, but I have not committed those changes to Crossref yet by doing a deposit. So right away here, you can see a major advantage between this and the old way, in that here you're preserving your work from one session to the next. You can redeposit several times. This is targeted towards small members, small staff, non-technical staff, but it may really be useful for even larger members who want a user-friendly interface to get at some of their DOIs to make short-term changes or immediate changes to their content. So I would go through this. I'm not going to do a whole tutorial on all of the screens and the functionality of the Metadata Manager, but the basic takeaway is that this interface is a vast improvement over what we've had in the past. There are features like you can add funding data to the article. You can add the licensing information to your article, and you can add related items like what Patricia was talking about to your article. References are not yet facilitated. We need to get that implemented soon. And so you'll be able to drop in your reference list and deposit those as references, and you have the matching take place and have the DOIs discovered. So through this interface, it's going to be a much nicer way for people to have access to the editability of their articles. Okay, so going back to my main page, I can list the publications that are on my desktop, and I can continue to add articles, either existing articles or new articles, to those publications. The deposit history will be available. That's the history of your engagement with making deposits, not your whole prefix. It's only focused on the user who's working in this space. And the concept of a deposit cart means you put your articles, you put the things that you're ready to deposit into a cart, and then when you're ready to actually submit them, you submit them. And the submission happens right away. There's no queue anymore. These deposits will take place within seconds, and your DOIs will be registered, or if not, if there was a problem with your data, you would know that right away as well. So that's really a real quick exposure to the metadata manager. Any questions? Yes.
Eleonora Dagienė from Vilnius Gediminas Technical University. I have a question. If somebody, if a press has 15 journals and the metadata will be registering via this interface by 4 different peoples. If there is one account and many smaller account in all data in one place, is it possible?
So if there are multiple people working in this interface, they will not interfere with each other, because it'll understand that multiple people might be working on the same journal, and if they happen to even work on the same article, they will know if the other person has made a change that conflicts with their change. So there are protections to make sure that that doesn't happen. However, we still have the normal cross-ref deposit process cranking away in the background, accepting deposits via automation, right? So if your company does have automated mechanisms for depositing metadata to Crossref, and you come in here and you make some changes, there is the potential that you'll make a change here, deposit it to Crossref, and then your automatic system comes in the back door and updates that very same metadata differently. So within your shop, you've got to have some synchronization of who's changing your data, right? We don't have an answer for that one right now. The timestamps, which are a critical part of depositing metadata, may block some conflicts from happening, or so that depends on your timestamp algorithm. How do you construct your timestamps? All right, but for multiple people working in the environment, you should be okay.
Give it back. Just a comment. You typing in a random DOI and it being identical is now my favorite live demo ever. But the question is related to manually typing things in. How often do people make mistakes when they're entering a journal DOI or a DOI when it's not through the APIs? Because I'm from Protocols.io, and when people cite the DOI from protocol in the materials and methods section of their paper, some 1% of the time or so, instead of copying and pasting, they will manually type it for some reason, and they will make mistakes. What happens, and how can you avoid that?
So the randomness of what I did, actually, that wasn't very random. I went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, right? So I probably do that all the time. That's my style of making up a play DOI, right? Mistakes get made, and you just you just modify. So you modify the metadata and you do a redeposit. If you make a mistake in the DOI itself and you register that DOI, now you have a little bit more of a problem, right? Because we don't delete DOIs. And if you make a mistake on a DOI, but yet the one you wanted actually got published, it's on a website someplace, it's been released in the wild, now you've constructed a problem. And we have ways of handling that. Patricia's folks deal with that all the time. You know, you create the one you should have, and now you've created a conflict, and you'll turn the bad one into an alias to the prime, to the good one, which becomes the prime. So the old one, the aliased one, essentially ceases to exist, but it still functions. All right, that's kind of a nasty problem. Happens a lot.
I think one of the ways this tool is going to make a big difference is in the current web form that happens constantly. There's a steady stream of that sort of problem coming into our support queue, but in this form, it's very basic, but you'll be able to review things before you submit them. And that extra step, just someone being able to see what they're doing as opposed to now just submitting it blind, I think will make a big deal. And I think also the initial release of this will be fairly basic, but as it evolves, we might be allowing, like Blue Sky, be allowing people to establish patterns and stuff so that they can rely less on their fingers, I think.
Yeah, you'll have plenty of opportunity to see what you're doing before you actually have to push the, commit button. Here, I went to the review mode of the article that I had, and you can see in a fairly concise, with all the noise gone, view, here's the actual metadata that exists for this article. And you can see what the DOI is, and you can see what the URLs are, and the bibliographic metadata is displayed in a friendly, familiar way. You can look at this before you have to submit the content. This will help solve that problem. Okay.